Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Nights. This is Kevin, and tonight we'll live as a medieval witch's cat. My name is Midnight, and I am, without question, the most important resident of this cottage. The human who lives here, Elara, though I mostly think of her as my human, seems to believe she's in charge. But we cats know better. She feeds me, provides warmth, and keeps the cottage clean for my comfort. A perfectly adequate arrangement. This morning begins like most others, with an outrage. I wake to find my food bowl empty. Completely, scandalously empty. Now, not even a morsel of yesterday's fish remains. This is clearly a catastrophe of the highest order, and I inform my human of this travesty with a series of pointed yowls that echo throughout the cottage. But as I stretch, because one must maintain proper form even in a crisis, a scent hits my sensitive nose that makes my whiskers twitch with indignation. There is a stranger in my garden. An interloper, a usurper of my rightful territory. Through the cottage's small windows, I spot the offender. A brown tabby cat, bold as brass, actually eating my catnip. My catnip. The nerve of this creature knows no bounds. I puff my tail to its full magnificent size and stalk to the door, where I execute a perfect, pitiful, starving cat routine until Elara opens it for me. Humans are so easily trained when you know the right techniques. The morning air is crisp, with the promise of autumn, and I can smell rain coming from the west. But first, territorial matters must be addressed. The invading cat, clearly a peasant with no understanding of proper boundaries, has the audacity to look up from my catnip and meow at me as if we're equals. I fix him with my most withering stare, the one that has cowed mice and made grown humans step aside. This is my domain, I communicate through a series of tail lashes and strategic ear positions. You are trespassing. The stranger, of course apparently too dim to understand basic cat protocol, actually sits down and begins grooming himself. In my garden, while staring directly at me. The insult cuts deep. I begin my approach, slow, deliberate, each paw placed with calculated precision. This is psychological warfare at its finest. But before I can reach optimal intimidation range, disaster strikes from an entirely unexpected direction. Oh, what a lovely cat! My human has appeared, and she's speaking in that ridiculous voice she uses when she thinks something is cute. To my absolute horror, she's walking toward the intruder with what appears to be a bowl of cream. "You must be hungry, poor thing," she coos, setting down my cream for this vagrant. The betrayal stings. Have I not served faithfully? Have I not graced her cottage with my presence, accepting her offerings with dignity? And now she feeds random strays in front of me, as if my position means nothing. I execute a tactical retreat to reconsider my strategy, settling on the stone wall that borders the herb garden. From here I can survey my domain while plotting the downfall of this usurper. A strange cat who I've decided to call the interloper until I can devise a more insulting name, drinks my cream with obvious enjoyment. When he finishes, he has the gall to approach my wall. "Nice territory you have here," he says, in the easy manner of cats who've never had to fight for anything. "I'm Whiskers. My humans just moved to the village. They're the new blacksmith family." Whiskers. Of course he has a common name like that. No dignity whatsoever. I inform him with as much authority as I can muster. I am Midnight, guardian of this sacred space, protector of the herb garden, and chief advisor to the village's most skilled healer. This is my domain, granted to me by right of residence, intelligence, and superior hunting abilities. Whisker tilts his head. "Your human makes medicine?" I should have expected such ignorance. "My human," I explain with barely concealed patience, "is a master of the healing arts. She communes with plants, creates remedies that ease suffering, and possesses knowledge passed down through generations. I, naturally, am her most trusted assistant." This is entirely true. I do assist. Just yesterday, I knocked over a jar of bitter herbs that would have ruined a perfectly good tonic, saving my human, of course, from grave error. She didn't thank me properly, but humans rarely understand the subtleties of my help. "So, she's a witch?" Whiskers asks, with what sounds like interest rather than fear. I consider this carefully. The villagers do call her a witch sometimes, usually whispered behind their hands when they think no one is listening. But I've heard how they say it, sometimes with suspicion, sometimes with desperate hope when their children are sick and the village priest's prayers aren't enough. "She is what she needs to be," I replied diplomatically. "This is wisdom I've gained from years of observation. Labels matter less than results, and my human gets results." Our philosophical discussion is interrupted by a commotion from the cottage. Raised voices carry through the morning air, and I recognize the deeper tones of Brother Benedict, the village priest. My fur stands up instinctively. Brother Benedict makes my human nervous, which makes me suspicious of him in principle. He has a habit of sniffing around the cottage, poking at things with his walking stick, and asking pointed questions about the source of Elara's knowledge. More importantly, he smells like incense and disapproval. Two scents I find deeply offensive. I abandoned my territorial dispute for the moment and bound through the cottage door. Whiskers, apparently lacking any sense of propriety, follows me. The scent inside confirms my worst suspicions. Brother Benedict stands near my human's work table, his sharp eyes scanning the carefully arranged herbs and bottles. My human Elara stands beside him, her hands clapped tightly in front of her, a sure sign of distress. "The church has concerns," Brother Benedict is saying, his voice carrying the weight of authority that humans seem to find so intimidating. "Your remedies have become quite popular. People speak of miraculous recoveries." "I only help where I can," my human replies quietly, "using knowledge of plants and their properties. Nothing more." I position myself strategically near the work table. If Brother Benedict gets too close to anything important, I'm prepared to take action. It wouldn't be the first time I've accidentally knocked something over to protect my human's interests. "Knowledge," Brother Benedict repeats slowly. "Knowledge. And where did you acquire this knowledge? It was not from our monastery's texts." This is dangerous territory. I can smell the tension rising like smoke from a poorly tended fire. My human's hands are trembling slightly, and I know she's thinking of her grandmother, who taught her the old ways in secret, away from the church's disapproving gaze. But before my human can formulate a response that won't get her in trouble, another voice interrupts from the doorway. "Brother Benedict, thank the Virgin you're here." Anna, the baker's wife, bursts into the cottage, her face flushed from running. Behind her comes young Tom, the blacksmith's apprentice, supporting a heavily pregnant woman I recognize as Mary, the miller's daughter. "The baby's coming," Anna gasps, "and something's wrong. She's been laboring since yesterday dawn, but the child won't come. Please, Brother Benedict, you must—"
"I am a priest, not a midwife,"
Brother Benedict says stiffly, but I can see uncertainty in his eyes. The church teaches that suffering in childbirth is God's will, punishment for Eve's sin. But faced with Mary's obvious distress, even he seems troubled. All eyes, of course, turn to my human, This is the moment I've seen before, when the village's suspicion of her unnatural knowledge clashes with their desperate need for her skills. My human steps forward without hesitation. "Bring her to the bed," she instructs Tom and Anna. "Brother Benedict, if you wish to help, please pray for both mother and child while I examine her." I watch with some sort of admiration as my human transforms from nervous woman to confident healer. This is why I chose to stay with her. This moment, when she becomes something more than human, when her knowledge flows like water finding its proper course. While the humans bustle around settling Mary on the cottage's small bed, I notice Brother Benedict's attention returning to the work table. He spotted the mandrake root, partially hidden behind a jar of mint leaves. Mandrake is problematic. The church considers it devil's work, even though it's one of the most effective pain remedies available. Time for some direct action. I leap onto the table with fluid grace, positioning myself directly in front of the mandrake. Then I begin the most enthusiastic grooming session of my life, making sure my luxurious black fur fans out to completely obscure the offending plant. Brother Benedict frowns at me.
"Shoo, cat, shoo."
I, of course, completely ignore him, switching to grooming my hindquarters with the dedication of a monk at prayer. From this position, I can keep one eye on him while providing maximum coverage for the mandrake.
"Persistent creature,"
he mutters, but Mary's labored breathing draws his attention back to the more immediate crisis. My human works with quiet efficiency, her hands gentle as she examines Mary. I can see the concerns in her eyes. This birth is not progressing as it should. The baby has turned wrong, and without help, both mother and child are in danger. "The infant is breech," Elara murmurs to Anna. "I need to..." "Is there anything you can do?" Anna interrupts, her voice cracking. "Some remedy? Some technique?" The word hangs in the air like smoke. Everyone knows what Anna is really asking. Does Elara have knowledge beyond what the church approves? Can she do what the priests cannot? Brother Benedict's eyes narrow, and I can sense the trap closing around my human. If she admits to special knowledge, she risks accusations of witchcraft. If she does nothing, Mary and her child may die. But my human has more courage than the priest realizes. "Anna, I need you to boil water. Tom, there are clean linens in the chest by the window. Brother Benedict?" She pauses, meeting his gaze directly. "I am going to attempt to turn this child. It is a technique I've learned from my grandmother, who served as midwife in this village for 30 years. There is nothing supernatural about it, only knowledge of the human body and God's design." The priest considers this. My human has been clever, invoking her grandmother's respected memory and framing her knowledge in terms of divine creation rather than unholy power. While humans prepare for the difficult birth ahead, I notice movement outside the window. Whiskers has gone back to the garden, but he's not alone. The village children have discovered him, and they're making a terrible racket trying to coax him closer. This prevents a new problem. The cottage is already crowded with the birth crisis, and the last thing we need is a gaggle of children adding to the chaos. I abandon my post guarding the mandrake and slip outside through the partially open door. The scene in the garden is worse than I feared. Not only are there 6 children making noise, but they've trampled through Elara's carefully tended herb plots and their enthusiasm to pet the new cat. Young Sarah has managed to grab Whiskers and is squeezing him with the excessive affection that children mistake for love. I could simply ignore this disaster, but the herb garden is sacred. Those plants are essential to my human's work, and I cannot stand by while they're destroyed by careless feet. I execute my most impressive threat display. Back arched, fur standing on end, a yowl that could wake the dead. The children freeze, suddenly remembering why their parents tell them to be careful around cats. "Shoo, children," I command, advancing with deliberate menace. "Away from the sacred herbs. This is not a playground." Most of the children scatter, but young Sarah holds on to Whiskers with stubborn determination. This calls for more subtle tactics. I approach her slowly, switching to my most persuasive purr. Children are sensitive creatures. Show them something more interesting than what they're currently doing, and they'll abandon their first focus immediately. "Sarah," I meow in my most compelling voice, winding around her ankles. "Wouldn't you rather help inside? There's a baby being born, very exciting, much more interesting than bothering a strange cat." She releases Whiskers to pet me instead. Victory. Sometimes diplomacy works better than intimidation. Sarah listens inside. Her eyes widen. I purr, gently herding her toward the cottage door. "Your assistance may be needed. Very important work for a big girl like you." The other children, drawn by Sarah, forget about the garden entirely and crowd toward the cottage. I allow them to enter first and follow with my dignity intact. Inside, the birth is progressing. My human has successfully turned the baby, and Mary's labored breathing has erased slightly. Brother Benedict kneels nearby, praying quietly, while Anna boils water and Tom hovers anxiously. The children's arrival actually helps. Their excited chatter distracts Mary from her pain, and their innocence seems to reassure Brother Benedict that nothing unholy is happening here. Just a skilled woman helping another woman in the most natural way possible. I settle on my favorite cushion near the hearth, keeping one eye on the proceedings while maintaining my dignity. Whiskers, apparently lacking any sense of appropriate boundaries, makes himself comfortable on my second favorite cushion. I allow this temporary transgression given the circumstances. The birth takes another hour, but finally, a baby's cry fills the cottage. Mary weeps with relief, while my human wraps the infant, a healthy boy, in clean linen. Anna bustles about making tea, Tom grins like he personally accomplished something miraculous, and even Brother Benedict looks satisfied.
God's work,
the priest announces, and my human nods humbly, though I can see the pride in her eyes. She did this. Her knowledge, her skill, her courage saved 2 lives today. As the excitement settles and the visitors prepare to leave, I notice Brother Benedict approaching the work table once more. But this time, his attention is caught by something else entirely. A small jar of honey that's been knocked over, its contents spreading across the wooden surface. I follow his gaze and realize with horror that in all the commotion, someone has disturbed my careful arrangement. The mandrake root is now clearly visible, sitting in a pool of honey like evidence of some arcane ritual. Brother Benedict's eyes narrow.
what plant is this?
My human turns, sees the exposed mandrake, and I watch her face pale. This could ruin everything. After successfully helping with the birth, after demonstrating that her knowledge comes from natural learning rather than dark powers, this single plant could still damn her. But then, Whiskers does something extraordinary. The foolish tabby cat suddenly yowls as if in great distress and launches himself directly at the work table. His claws catch the edge of the honey jar, sending it spinning across the surface. The jar strikes the mandrake root, knocking it to the floor where it rolls under a cabinet and out of sight. Brother Benedict steps back, brushing honey from his robes with obvious annoyance.
You clumsy beast!
I'm so sorry, my human says quickly, moving to clean up the mess. The cats must have gotten onto the table while we were distracted. You know how curious they can be. I stare at Whiskers in amazement. This bumbling interloper has just saved my human from serious trouble. And he did so naturally that Brother Benedict suspects nothing more than feline mischief. Perhaps this strange cat isn't entirely without merit. Brother Benedict departs with the others, apparently satisfied with whatever he witnessed. As the cottage returns to quiet, my human sinks into her chair with visible relief. Well, she murmurs, scratching behind my ear, in the way I particularly enjoy. That could have gone much worse. I purr agreement, then look meaningfully toward the cabinet where the mandrake root lies hidden. Some things are better kept secret. at least from small-minded humans who can't appreciate the full spectrum of healing arts. But the day is far from over. As the afternoon sun slants through the cottage windows, I notice movement in the root cellar where my human stores her dried herbs. The wooden stairs creak under small, skittering feet, and my hunting instincts sharpen immediately. Rats. This is a serious problem. The cellar contains not just food stores, but precious herbs that take months to dry properly. A family of rats could destroy weeks of careful preparation in a single night. I inform Whiskers of the situation, and to his credit, he immediately grasps the severity of the crisis. "How many?" he asks, his ears prickled forward alertly. "At least 3 adults, possibly with young ones," I report, after a careful sniff near the cellar entrance. "They've made nests in the grain sacks and begun investigating the herb bundles." "This is war then," Whiskers says, with the first show of proper seriousness I've seen from him. And so, we descend into the cellar together, our eyes adjusting to the dim light filtering through the small windows. The space is cramped but organized. Shelves lined with pottery jars, bundles of herbs hanging from the ceiling, sacks of grain and dried beans arranged against the walls. And there, bold as you please, a large brown rat sits atop a sack of barley, actually eating the grain while staring directly at us. I exchange a look with Whiskers. This level of disrespect cannot stand. "You take the left side," I whisper. "I'll circle right. We drive them toward the center where they can't escape." "Agreed," Whiskers whispers back. "On your signal." The hunt that follows is a thing of beauty. 2 cats working in perfect coordination, using the cellar's layout to our advantage, of course. We flush out not 3 rats, but 5. A serious infestation that could have caused tremendous damage if left unchecked. I personally account for 2 of the invaders, while Whiskers proves surprisingly content by catching one and cornering another until I can assist. The 5th rat escapes through a crack in the foundation, but not before I land a warning bite that will ensure it spreads word about the new security arrangements. As we emerge from the cellar, victorious and slightly dusty, I realize that Whiskers has earned a measure of respect. Any cat who takes rat hunting seriously and doesn't attempt to claim credit for my kills deserves consideration as a potential ally, rather than an interloper. "Your territory is well defended now," Whiskers says, grooming cellar dust from his paws. "Those rats won't return soon." "Our territory," I correct him, surprising myself with the admission. "It seems there's enough space for 2 cats, provided proper protocols are observed, of course." Whiskers looks pleased, but doesn't push his luck by acting overly familiar. "Yes. Smart cat. Yes." Our diplomatic breakthrough is interrupted by a new crisis Through the cottage windows, I can see dark clouds building on the western horizon. The rain I smelled this morning is finally approaching, and it looks to be a serious storm. Now this presents multiple problems. First, my human has herbs drying on outdoor racks that must be brought inside before they're ruined. Second, the neighbors' chickens are loose again, wandering through the village and likely to end up in our garden seeking shelter. Third, and most personally concerning, I can smell wet dog approaching from the direction of the mill. Dogs and cats have a natural understanding about territory, but wet dogs lose all sense altogether. They shake themselves wherever they please. They track mud through clean spaces and generally make nuisances of themselves. I alert my human to the approaching weather by the time-tested method of running to the cottage door, yowling urgently, then running to the window to stare meaningfully at the clouds. She, of course, being properly trained by myself, immediately grasps the situation. "Oh, the herbs!" she exclaims, hurrying outside to gather the drying racks. Whiskers and I assist by supervising the operation and ensuring no precious plants are left behind. The wind is picking up now, and I can hear thunder rumbling in the distance. But as we work, the chicken situation becomes critical. Sure enough, a flock of the neighbor's birds comes flapping and squawking into the garden, seeking shelter from the approaching storm. Normally, I might ignore them. Chickens are too large for practical hunting and too stupid for interesting conversation. But they're heading directly for the freshly planted herb seedlings that represent my human's winter medicine supply. This cannot be allowed. I signal to Whiskers, and we execute a perfect pincer movement. I take the direct approach, advancing with purpose and announcing my territorial claims through strategic hissing. Whiskers circles wide, appearing behind the flock to prevent escape in that direction. The chickens, being chickens, immediately panic and begin running in circles while squawking at volumes that could wake the dead. This attracts the attention of young Tom the blacksmith, who comes running to investigate the commotion. "Here, here," Tom calls, waving his arms to herd the chickens back toward their proper home. "Come along, you silly birds." With human assistance, we successfully redirect the chicken invasion. The birds retreat to their own yard just as the first fat raindrops begin to fall. Whiskers and I take shelter under the cottage's small porch, watching the storm develop with professional interest. Rain means fewer mice venturing out, but it also drives insects seeking dry places, creating different hunting opportunities. "Good day's work," Whisker comments, settling into a comfortable loaf position. "Indeed," I agree, though I maintain my dignity by keeping some distance between us. Alliance is one thing, excessive familiarity is another. The storm passes quickly, leaving the air clean and cool. As evening approaches, my human prepares our dinner. Fresh fish from the morning market, cream from the grateful miller whose daughter delivered safely, and a special portion of catnip for me as recognition of my day's service. Whiskers, being a guest, receives a respectable meal of fish scraps and fresh water. I note with approval that he waits for me to begin eating before starting my own meal. Proper etiquette. As we dine, I reflect on the day's events. Territory successfully defended. Rats eliminated. Dangerous herbs protected from official scrutiny. Chickens redirected. Storm preparations completed. A thoroughly productive day by any measure. But more than that, I've gained an ally. Now, Whiskers may lack my sophistication and deep knowledge of the cottage's routines, but he's proven himself competent in crises and respectful of proper hierarchy. These are valuable qualities in a partner. After dinner, as my human settles by the fire with her mending, both cats find our preferred spots in the cottage's warm embrace. I claim my traditional position on the cushion nearest the hearth, while Whiskers settles on a rag nearby. Close enough to demonstrate acceptance, far enough to show he understands his place. The cottage fills with the peaceful sounds of the evening. The fire crackling softly, my human's needle moving through fabric. The gentle patter of residual rain on the thatched roof. Outside, the village settles into sleep, secure in the knowledge that skilled hands are available when needed. I begin my evening grooming routine, a meditative process that helps me process the day's events. Today brought challenges, but each was met and overcome with proper application of feline wisdom and strategic thinking. My human glances over at us, and I catch the fond smile on her face. She understands, I think, that she is blessed now with not just one but two guardian cats. Double the protection, double the hunting prowess, double the wisdom to guide her through whatever challenges tomorrow may bring. As the fire burns lower and the cottage grows drowsy, I allow my eyes to drift closed. Tomorrow will bring new adventures, new problems to solve, new demonstrations of my superior intelligence and tactical thinking. But tonight, all is well in my domain. I purr softly, the sound joining with Whiskers' gentle snoring and the settling sounds of the cottage around us. This is how it should be, predator and prey in proper balance, territory secure, allies chosen wisely, and humans properly supervised. Life, as a witch's cat, is challenging work. But someone must do it, and I, Midnight, am clearly the cat for the job. The last thing I see before I sleep is my human banking the fire for the night, moving with the quiet confidence of someone who knows her place in the world. Thanks to my efforts, and admittedly some small assistance from Whiskers, she is safe, her reputation intact, her skills available to help the village through whatever troubles may come. Tomorrow I shall have to teach Whiskers about the seasonal herb gathering routines, the proper protocol for dealing with various types of human visitors, and the ancient art of appearing completely innocent while conducting necessary surveillance operations. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That is tomorrow's work. Tonight we rest, secure in our cottage, surrounded by the scents of healing herbs, the warmth of well-tended fire. All of it is as it should be in the domain of Midnight, guardian cat, tactical advisor, and keeper of cottage wisdom. My purr deepens as sleep approaches, a sound of complete satisfaction with the day's work well done. My name is Midnight, and I wake this morning to discover that my new ally has absolutely no understanding of proper breakfast protocols. Whiskers sits beside not one, but both food bowls, looking extremely pleased with himself. His whiskers, appropriately named, I must admit, are covered in fish remnants that clearly came from my bowl, the one positioned closest to the hearth, the one I have eaten from every morning for the past 3 years. "Good morning," Whiskers announces cheerfully. "I hope you don't mind. My humans forgot to feed me before they left for the forge, and your human put out 2 bowls, so I thought—" "You thought incorrectly," I inform him, with as much patience as I can muster before my first meal. The bowl positioning is not arbitrary. The bowl nearest the hearth is mine, by right of seniority and residence. The bowl near the door is yours, indicating your position as guest and junior partner in this territory. Whiskers tilts his head, considering this. But they're both the same size, and they had the same food. This is going to require more education than I anticipated. It is not about the size or contents, I explain, settling beside the remaining bowl with what dignity I can salvage. It is about the principle of order. Without structure, we descend into chaos. Today, you eat from my bowl through ignorance. Tomorrow, you're sleeping on my cushion. And before we know it, the entire social fabric of this cottage has unraveled. "Oh, I would never sleep on your cushion," Whiskers says earnestly. "It smells too much like you." I choose to take this as a compliment. The truth is, while my breakfast has been compromised, I find myself unable to maintain proper outrage. Whiskers' humans, the new blacksmith family, are still settling into village life, and I've observed that they often leave before dawn, sometimes forgetting to feed their cat in their rush to open the forge. This is poor human training on Whiskers' part, but not malicious intent. "In the future," I say, adopting my most authoritative tone, "you will wait for me to eat first. Then you may finish anything I leave in either bowl. This is the proper protocol." "That seems fair," Whiskers agrees, then adds, "You are a very organized cat. Someone has to be, I reply, thinking of the chaos that would surely reign without my guidance. My human, Elara, emerges from her sleeping alcove, already dressed and moving with the purposeful energy that means market day. She keeps a schedule more reliable than the church bells, and I have learned to read her patterns like a hunter reads tracks. Today, she will pack her remedies and dried herbs, walk to the village square, and spend the morning selling her preparations to villagers who need them. She returns by midday, restocks her supplies, and spends the afternoon preparing new medicines. It is a good routine, predictable and safe, except that I notice her hands trembling slightly as she wraps bundles of feverfew. She keeps glancing toward the door, and I catch the scent of anxiety rising from her like smoke. Brother Benedict's visit yesterday has unsettled her more than she's admitting. I position myself strategically near the work table, keeping watch while she prepares. This is one of my primary duties, monitoring my human's emotional state and providing presence when needed. Humans are fragile creatures, prone to worry, and they require the steadying influence of a superior being nearby. "Midnight, stop staring at me," Elara mummers, reaching down to scratch behind my ears. "I'm fine." She is not fine, but I appreciate her attempt at reassurance. Humans often need to convince themselves of things before they can be true. A knock at the door interrupts my surveillance. It's young Tommy, the baker's son, perhaps 10 years old, and he stands with his usual gape-toothed grin. "Morning, Miss Elara. Ma sent me to help carry your baskets to market." This is the arrangement every week. Tommy helps transport Elara's goods, and his mother receives a discount on remedies. A sensible trade that benefits both parties. What is not part of the arrangement is the massive brown creature that barrels through the door the moment Tommy opens it. Bruno, the dog. I have strong opinions about dogs, and none of them are complimentary. Dogs are loud, chaotic, and completely lacking in dignity. They cannot groom themselves properly. They smell of enthusiasm and poor decisions, and they have no concept of personal space or territorial boundaries. Bruno is all of these things magnified by his enormous size. He's some sort of mix, mastiff mix, all paws and tongue and mindless good cheer. He spots me immediately, and his tail begins wagging with such violence that it knocks over a small basket of dried chamomile. "Tommy!" Elara exclaims. "The dog cannot be in here." "Oh, sorry, Miss Elara. Bruno, out! Out!" But Bruno has now spotted Whiskers and believes he has found a new friend. He bounds toward the tabby cat with the grace of a falling boulder. Whiskers, to his credit, does not panic. He simply leaps straight up onto the work table, landing beside a precarious stack of pottery jars. Bruno crashes into the table's leg with enough force to set everything rattling. I spring into action. My responsibility is clear. Remove the dog from the cottage before he destroys my human's careful work. But I must do so in a way that maintains plausible deniability. Elara cannot know that I am deliberately herding her livestock, or she might begin to suspect the full extent of my intelligence and organizational capabilities. Humans become nervous when they realize how much we actually understand. I position myself between Bruno and the work table, puffing my tail to maximize size. Bruno, being a dog, interprets this as an invitation to play. He drops into a bow, tail still destroying everything in its wake. Bruno, no! Tommy is trying to grab the dog's collar, but Bruno thinks this is part of the game. I yowl, a specific sound that I know Elara interprets as extreme distress, must investigate immediately. She hurries over, and in her concern for my safety, leaves the cottage door wide open. Perfect. I bolt for the door, knowing Bruno's prey drive, such as it is, will compel him to chase. Sure enough, the massive beast lumbers after me. I lead him out into the garden, then up to the stone wall where he cannot follow, his frustrated barking echoing across the morning air. Tommy catches up, red-faced and apologetic. Bad dog. Bad Bruno. Bruno wags his tail, clearly believing he has done something wonderful. From my position on the wall, I observe Whiskers slipping out the cottage and joining me. Together we watch Tommy wrestle Bruno back toward his home. The boy's constant apologies fading as they disappear down the lane. That was clever, Whiskers says, admiringly. You made yourself a target so he'd chase you out instead of destroying the cottage. It was simply the most effective solution, I reply, though I admit to a small glow of satisfaction at the recognition. We return to find Elara sweeping up the scattered chamomile, muttering about foolish dogs and why does Tommy always bring that beast? She appears to believe the wind scattered the herbs. The window was open after all, and a convenient breeze supports the interpretation. I allow her this belief. Sometimes the best service we provide is invisible. Market day proceeds without further canine intervention. Elara and Tommy depart, with loaded baskets, and I settle into my mid-morning routine. Perimeter check, grooming, strategic nap positioning to maximize sunbeam exposure. Whiskers has his own routine, I've discovered. He makes a circuit of the entire garden, marking certain spots, investigating any changes since yesterday. He's more thorough than I initially gave him credit for. Less sophisticated than my methods, perhaps, but effective in his own way. I'm engaged in my second grooming session. One must maintain standards. When I hear the cottage door open again. This is irregular. Elara should not return for hours yet. I slip through the window, left open for exactly this purpose, and discover not Elara, but old widow Martha, letting herself inside. She has a key, which she's only meant to use in emergencies, and she's carrying a basket that's making suspicious meowing sounds. This cannot be good. Martha is a kind woman, generous with her soup and her prayers, but she has a habit of helping in ways that, well, create more problems than they solve. Last month, she brought Elara an enormous quantity of cabbage from her garden. More cabbage than any reasonable person could use. And my human spent days desperately making sauerkraut and giving it to neighbors before it spoiled. I follow Martha inside, maintaining a respectful distance while assessing the threat level. Elara? Oh, she must be at market, Martha mutters to herself, setting the basket on the table. Well, I'll just leave this little dear here. She needs more cats anyway, living alone like that. Cats are good company. On this we agree, but I have a terrible suspicion about what's in that basket. Martha lifts the lid, and my worst fears are confirmed. A kitten. Not just any kitten. An orange tabby ball of chaos, with enormous ears, needle claws, and the crazed eyes of something that has never learned what fear means. It cannot be more than 8 weeks old. All fuzzy fur and violent energy. There you go, little one, Martha coos, lifting it out. You'll have such a nice home here. She sets the kitten on the floor, gives it one last pat, and departs, clearly feeling virtuous about her charitable deed. The kitten spots me immediately. Now, I have dealt with kittens before. The key is to establish dominance early through careful displays of size and dignity. I draw myself up to full height, fix it with my most withering stare, and wait for the inevitable submission. The kitten attacks my tail. Not a playful swat, a full-on assault, with all 4 sets of claws and its tiny little teeth. It hangs from my tail like some sort of demented orange ornament, growling in a way that would be menacing if it weren't so utterly ridiculous. I spin, trying to dislodge it. The kitten releases my tail and immediately launches itself at a stack of papers on Elara's desk, scattering them across the floor. Then it spots the ink pot. Oh no, I begin. But it's too late. The kitten swats the ink pot with one paw, sending it rolling across the desk. Black ink spreads across parchment, drips onto the floor. The kitten, now fascinated by the shiny black puddle, walks directly through it, leaving tiny inky paw prints everywhere. Whiskers arrives through the window at this moment, takes in the scene, and makes a sound I can only describe as a wheeze of suppressed laughter. "It's not funny," I hiss. "We need to contain this creature before..." The kitten has discovered the curtains. It scales them with the enthusiasm of a creature that has never heard the word no in its short life. Tiny claws catching in the fabric. It reaches the top, sways dangerously, and yowls in triumph before realizing it has no idea how to get down. "Should we help it?" Whiskers asks, still sounding amused. "Absolutely not," I reply with dignity. "It got itself up there. It can figure out how to..." The kitten jumps, simply launches itself into space with complete faith that somehow this will work out. It lands on the work table, knocking over a jar of dried mint, which shatters on the floor. The kitten tears through the mint leaves, scattering them further, now covered in ink, plant matter, and its own terrible life choices. "Right," I say, abandoning all pretense of superiority. "Help me catch it before it destroys the entire cottage." What follows is perhaps the most undignified 10 minutes of my life. The kitten is fast, fearless, and completely insane. It evades every attempt of capture, treating our efforts as a delightful game. At one point, it's on top of my head. Whiskers tries to pin it into a corner, but it scrambles directly over him, leaving inky paw prints across his tabby stripes. Finally, through sheer luck more than skill, Whiskers manages to grab it by the scruff. The kitten immediately goes limp, the natural response to being carried by a parent, though neither of us are remotely qualified for that role. "Now what?" Whiskers asks, dangling the kitten, purring loudly. "We hide it," I decide, "in a basket with a cloth over it until Elara returns. She will see it, realize this is an insane creature that cannot be trusted, and return it to Martha. We locate a suitable basket, line it with some soft cloth, and deposit the kitten inside. It immediately begins purring and kneading the fabric, apparently exhausted from its reign of terror. We place a cloth over the top, not sealed, allowing some air, but dark enough to encourage sleep. "You think that'll work?" Whiskers asks, doubtfully. "It has to," I reply, surveying the damage. Ink, broken pottery, scattered herbs, curtains hanging askew. "Help me clean this before Elara returns." We do our best. Whiskers and I work together, pushing the larger pieces of broken pottery into a pile, using our paws to gather the scattered mint back into a semblance of organization. The ink is beyond our capabilities, but perhaps we can make it look like an accident rather than an assault by an orange chaos demon. Elara returns just as we're finishing. She takes in the scene. Broken jar, scattered herbs, ink stains, and two cats trying very hard to look innocent. "What happened here?" she asks, though her tone suggests she doesn't really expect an answer. I execute my most convincing "I was asleep and just woke up" routine, complete with elaborate stretching and yawning. Elara sighs, fetches a broom, and begins cleaning properly. She's just finishing when she notices the basket. "What's this? I didn't leave a basket here." She lifts the cloth. The kitten wakes, sees her face, and makes the most pathetically adorable mewing sound I have ever heard. Its enormous eyes blink up at her, and I can see my human's resolve melting like snow in the spring sun. "Oh no," she breathes. "Oh, you poor little thing, where did you come from?" I notice Martha's shawl is still draped over a chair. She must have forgotten it. Elara spots it too, and understanding dawns. "Martha," Elara says, "of course." She lifts the kitten, which immediately begins purring and nuzzling her chin. I watch with growing horror as she cradles it, smiling despite herself. "You're very sweet," she tells it gently. "But I already have 2 cats, and you've clearly been causing trouble. Look at these inky paws." Hope rises in my chest. She's going to refuse. She has to refuse. And then, right on cue, there's another knock at the door. Martha returns, looking for her shawl. "Oh, you found the kitten," Martha beams. "Isn't she precious? I found her abandoned by the road this morning, poor little mite, and I thought Elara lives alone. She could use another cat." "Martha, that's very kind," Elara begins diplomatically, "but 2 cats is already quite a lot. This one is very young. It needs a lot of attention." "Exactly. You're so good with animals," Martha interrupts. She'll be no trouble at all. I watch Elara struggle between kindness and practicality. She glances at me and Whiskers. Well, what do you two think? Should we keep her? We both shake our heads vigorously. Whiskers adds a pointed yowl that clearly means absolutely not. Elara laughs. I think the current residents have spoken, Martha. She's adorable, but I truly cannot take on a third cat. Perhaps the Miller family? Their barn cat just had kittens, one more would fit right in. Relief floods through me, as Martha, though disappointed, accepts the reasoning. She departs with the kitten, who meows piteously all the way down the path. You two really don't like sharing, do you? Elara says, amused. Don't worry. You're quite enough chaos for one cottage. She has no idea. After the kitten crises, Whiskers and I retreat to the garden to recover our dignity through strategic grooming and pretending that the last hour didn't happen. The sun is warm. The herbs smell pleasant. And for a short moment I allow myself to simply exist without responsibility. This peaceful moment lasts approximately 6 minutes. Midnight, Whisker says carefully. Something's wrong with the garden. I rise immediately, senses alert. What do you smell? Not smell, look. He leads me to the feverfew patch. The same herb Elara was packaging this morning. Several plants show fresh cuts. The stems sheared cleanly about 2 inches from the ground. Someone has harvested them, and recently. This is not bird damage or rabbit browsing, this is a knife. I examine the cuts more closely, catching the faint scent of human sweat and something else. Fear, perhaps, or desperation, I'm not sure. Not the confident cutting of someone who knows what they're doing, but the hasty work of someone stealing quickly. Should we tell Elara? Whisker asks. Not yet, no, we need more information. I study the garden more carefully. The thief took only feverfew. Useful for headaches and fever, but not the most valuable herb here. They pass by the more expensive lavender, the harder to find. This suggests either ignorance or specific need. We'll watch tonight, I decide. If they come back, we'll see who they are. But the thief doesn't wait for night. We're doing our afternoon perimeter check when I spot movement near the garden gate. A girl, perhaps 10 years old, slips through the opening with the nervous energy of someone doing something they know is wrong. She's thin, not just child slender, but genuinely underfed. Her dress is patched and worn, her feet wrapped in cloth rather than proper shoes. She carries a small knife, the kind used for eating rather than gardening, and approaches the herb with the desperate speed of frightened prey. I chase her off. It would be justified. She's stealing from my territory, from my human's livelihood. But something about her careful, fearful movements makes me pause. She cuts several stems, wraps them quickly in her apron, and runs. Should we follow? Whiskers asks.
Yes.
We trail her through the village, keeping to shadows and fence lines. She's too focused on her destination to notice two cats maintaining surveillance. She leads us to the very edge of the village, where the poorer cottages huddle against the forest's edge. The building she enters is barely more than a shed. Thatch roof patched with branches, gaps in the walls stuffed with rags and mud. We circle the cottage carefully. Through a crack in the door, I can just see inside. A woman lies on a thin pallet, her face flushed with fever. The girl kneels beside her, trying to make tea from the stolen herbs. But she's doing it wrong, using too much, not steeping it long enough, adding other herbs that will make it bitter and less effective. We watch for a few more minutes. The woman is clearly very sick, and the girl is terrified and alone. There's no father visible, no other family. Just a desperate child trying to save her mother with stolen herbs and incomplete knowledge. This is the kind of problem that has no simple solution. We could tell Elara, but that might result in the girl being punished for theft. We could chase the girl away from future stealing, but that leaves the sick woman without help. We could do nothing, but that feels wrong too. We tell Elara, I decide finally. But we tell her in a way that focuses on the sick woman, not the theft. How? Whiskers asks reasonably. She doesn't understand us. We make her understand. Now this is where years of training my human pays dividends. I have taught Elara to read certain behaviors. The something outside yowl, the my food bowl is unacceptable complaint, the danger approaching alert. Now I need to communicate something more complex. There is a person who needs help in that direction. We return to find Elara restocking her shelves with the herbs and remedies that didn't sell at the market. She's humming softly, a sign that the day went well and she's in a receptive mood. I begin my performance. First, I jump onto the work table. Not allowed, but necessary. Elara shoos me down. I jump back up. This happens 3 times before she pays real attention. Midnight, what is wrong with you? I carefully knock over the jar of feverfew. Not breaking it, just tipping it on its side. The dried flowers spill across the table. Midnight! Elara moves to clean it up. I knock over the coin box next. Not the whole thing, just nudging it so a few coins fall. I hear Whiskers make a small sound of admiration at this touch. Are you feeling all right? Elara is concerned now by my behavior. I jump down and run to the door, yowling. The specific follow me yowl that I've only used twice before. Once for a fire, once for a child who fell in the well. Elara knows all too well this yowl means urgency. She grabs her medicine bag, another good sign, and follows me out the door. Show me. I lead her through the village, pausing frequently to make sure she's following. Whiskers flanks her on the side, adding his own encouraging meows. The villagers we pass look at us strangely. A woman following two cats through the streets. But Elara has learned to trust these moments. We reach the poor cottage. I scratch at the door, then look back at Elara meaningfully. She hesitates, then knocks. The girl opens it, sees Elara, and terror floods her face. I didn't mean it. I was going to pay you back. My mother is sick and I didn't know what else to do. Hush, child, Elara says gently, pushing past into the cottage. She takes one look at the fevered woman and immediately begins her assessment. I watch her from the doorway as my human transforms into healer mode. She examines the woman, asks the girl questions, checks the poor attempt at feverfew tea. This is pneumonia, Elara says finally. Your mother is very sick. You did right to try and treat her, but this is not enough. She needs stronger medicine. I don't have money, the girl whispers, tears streaming down her face. You don't need money, Elara replies firmly. I don't need money. I need hot water and clean cloths. Can you do that? The girl nods, desperate with hope. What follows is an hour of careful medical work. Elara prepares proper medicines, makes poultices for the woman's chest, instructs the girl on proper care. She learns that the father died last winter, leaving them with nothing. The girl has been trying to manage alone, too frightened to ask for help, resorting to theft out of sheer desperation. You should have come to me, Elara tells her gently. This is what I do, heal people, all people, whether they can pay or not. But they say that you're a... The girl trails off. A witch. Elara's smile is sad. Some do. But I'm also the only healer in a day's travel. And your mother needs help, which is all that matters. She leaves herbs, medicine, and food from her own supplies. Makes the girl promise to send for help if the fever doesn't break by morning. We walk home in the golden light of late afternoon. Elara quiet and thoughtful. "Thank you," she says softly to both of us. "I don't know how you knew, but thank you." I purr my acknowledgement. Whiskers rubs against her legs. But our satisfaction is short-lived. We're barely back at the cottage when Brother Benedict appears on the path, his dark robes making him look like a moving shadow in the fading light.
Elara,
He greets her with cold formality.
I heard you visited the Widow Morgan's cottage today.
"Yes, her daughter came for help," Elara replies. "The woman has pneumonia. I provided medicine."
Yes. How charitable.
Benedict's tone suggests this is not a compliment.
And how did you know to go there? The girl says she didn't ask for your help.
Elara hesitates. I can smell her fear rising. Someone told me she was sick."
Someone.
Benedict's eyes sweep over us cats, and I suppress the urge to arch my back.
The girl mentioned something interesting. She said a black cat led you there. Showed you the way, she said. Almost as if it understood what was needed.
"Cats are clever animals," Elara says lightly. "They wander all over the village. It was a coincidence."
Was it?
Benedict steps closer.
I've heard talk, Elara, about your cats. About how they seem to know things, especially the black one.
Help you in ways that seem unnatural.
Some say you speak to them. Some say they're your familiars, spirits bound to serve you.
The air feels dangerous. This is the moment where everything could change. "They're just cats," Elara says. "They're clever, they're affectionate, and sometimes they do strange things as cats do. But they're not spirits or familiars. They're just cats."
"Just cats,"
Benedict repeats. He stares at me for a long moment, and I force myself to remain still, to look exactly like a normal cat who understands nothing of this conversation. Finally, he nods slowly.
"Perhaps, but I'm watching, Elara. The church is watching. Your charitable works are noted, as is the unusual behavior of your household."
He leaves, and Elara sags against the doorframe. "This is getting dangerous," she whispers. I wind around her ankles, offering what comfort I can. Whiskers sits beside me, his usual cheerfulness subdued. Inside, Elara feeds us in distracted silence. She sits by the fire, but doesn't take up her usual mending, just stares into the flames, worrying. Did we make things worse? Whiskers asks me. I don't know, I admit. We saved a woman's life, but we also made Elara more visible, more suspicious. Was it worth it? I consider this. In the distance, in that poor cottage on the village edge, a woman's fever is breaking because Elara had the right medicine at the right time. A frightened girl is no longer alone with her terror. Yes, I say finally, it was worth it. We'll deal with the consequences. As night falls, the cottage settles into an uneasy peace. Elara finally goes to bed, though I can hear her restless movements through the curtain. Whiskers and I take up our positions. Me by the hearth, him by the door. Midnight, Whiskers says softly. Yes? Tomorrow, I'm going to watch the poor cottage. Make sure no one bothers them. I look at him with new respect. Good. I'll maintain surveillance here, keep watch for Benedict, or anyone else asking questions. We're a team then, Whiskers says, and there's a question in his voice. We're a team, I reluctantly confirm. Outside, the village sleeps. Tomorrow will bring new challenges. Benedict's scrutiny, the risk of helping people openly, the constant balance between doing good and staying safe. Tonight, 2 cats keep watch over one healer. Tries to help, even when it's dangerous. Somewhere in the darkness, a sick woman breathes easier because a child stole herbs and 2 cats understood what it meant. Life as a witch's cat is complicated work, but someone has to do it. My last thought before we sleep. Tomorrow, I'll teach Whiskers the proper protocols for intelligence gathering and surveillance. If we're going to protect Elara from her own dangerous kindness, we'll need to be more strategic. But tonight, we rest. Tomorrow's problems can wait for tomorrow's wisdom. My name is Midnight, and I wake this Christmas morning to a peace so profound, I immediately suspect something is wrong. The cottage is warm, the fire crackling gently. Elara hums while kneading dough, small loaves meant as Christmas gifts for the neighbors. Through the frost-edged windows, the village looks like something from an illuminated manuscript. Pristine snow, smoke rising from chimneys, the church bells just beginning their Christmas peal. This is nice, Whiskers says, stretching on his cushion. I regard him with suspicion. Suspiciously nice. Can't things just be nice sometimes, he says.
In my experience, no, I reply. But I allow myself to settle back into the warm spot I've cultivated by the hearth. Perhaps just this once, a day might pass without crisis or intervention required. This optimism lasts approximately 3 hours. Our morning routine proceeds normally. Breakfast of fish and cream, thorough grooming, perimeter inspection of the garden. The snow is untouched except for bird tracks and one set of rabbit prints near the herb garden. No threats, no disturbances, no chaos. Elara finishes baking by midday, producing 6 beautiful small loaves wrapped in clean cloth. Her plan is simple. Deliver these to the widow Morgan, the baker's family, old Martha, and 3 other households who've shown her kindness. Then she'll attend the village Christmas feast in the square, her first year participating fully, rather than lingering at the edges. "Oh, I'm nervous," she admits to us, checking her reflection in the polished copper pot. What if they really don't want me here?" I wind round her ankles reassuringly. The village has grown considerably warmer toward her since we helped save the widow Morgan. Even Brother Benedict's suspicion, while persistent, hasn't turned the community against her. I'll be back by mid-afternoon," she tells us, gathering her basket. "Be good. There's extra fish in your bowls." She leaves the door slightly ajar, just enough for us to come and go, and hurries down the snowy path, basket balanced carefully on her hip. "See," Whiskers says smugly. "A nice day." I should have known better than to agree. The cottage is peaceful in her absence. We eat fish at our leisurely place. I conduct my post-meal grooming with appropriate thoroughness, and we settle in for a proper nap. The winter sun slants through the windows, creating perfect patches of warmth. I awake perhaps an hour later, tongue dry, in need of water. Our water bowl is empty. Elara forgot to refill it before leaving. I notice a wooden bowl on the table still steaming slightly. She must have left something for us to drink there instead. How thoughtful. The liquid smells vaguely of apples and spices. I lap at it cautiously. It's sweet, warming, pleasant. "What's that?" Whiskers asks, appearing beside me. "Water, apple water." I drink more deeply. "Oh, it's quite good, actually." Whiskers joins me at the bowl. We drink together, the warm liquid easing our thirst. I notice it makes my head feel slightly fuzzy. But in a rather pleasant way. Almost relaxing. I feel wondrous, Whiskers announces, his whiskers twitching with pleasure. I feel coordinated, I reply. Testing my balance by jumping to a chair, I land perfectly. Very coordinated, possibly the most coordinated I've ever been. This confidence lasts until I attempt to jump from the chair to the mantel. I misjudge the distance by roughly 2 feet, crash into the wall, and fall in an undignified heap onto the floor. Whiskers, attempting to investigate my failure, somehow ends up on top of the table, spinning in a circle as his paws scramble for purchase on the smooth wood. Why is the room moving around? He asks, with genuine concern. It's not moving, I inform him with great authority. We're moving very fast while standing still. This makes perfect sense to both of us. What follows is, in retrospect, a period of time I would prefer to forget entirely. I have vague memories of running at full speed around the cottage for no discernible reason, of Whiskers becoming convinced that the broom is an enemy that must be fought, of both of us investigating Elara's basket of Christmas breads, with what I believed at the time was great care and delicacy, but which apparently involved knocking the entire basket to the floor, stepping on multiple loaves, and dragging one through the ash pile by the hearth. The last thing I remember clearly is Whiskers attempting to climb the curtains while singing some horrible yowling sound, and my own voice assuring him that he was doing great, very musical. Then darkness claims us both. I wake to catastrophe. My head pounds with a rhythm that suggests my brain is actively trying to escape my skull. My mouth tastes of regret and apples. Every sound is too loud, every light too bright. And Elara's Christmas breads, all 6 of them, are completely destroyed. They're scattered across the floor, crushed, dirtied, torn apart. One has paw prints pressed into it. Another appears to have been partially eaten and then abandoned. The clean cloths meant to wrap them are shredded in a corner where I vaguely recall fighting them. Whiskers groans from under the table. What happened? I think we drank something we shouldn't have drunk. The apple water? That was not water. I force myself up, despite my body's many protests. We've been poisoned. Poisoned? Yes, or cursed. Possibly both. I hear footsteps on the path. Elara's returning. My horror intensifies as I survey the destruction with increasingly clear eyes. She was so happy, so hopeful about attending the feast, about finally being part of the village's Christmas celebration. And we've ruined it. The door opens. Elara sees the scene. Demolished breads, chaos throughout the entire cottage, 2 cats who look distinctly unwell. Her face crumbles. She doesn't yell. I almost wish she would. Instead, she just sinks into her chair and stares at the destroyed gifts. I don't understand. How did this happen? I notice the bowl on the table, now empty, follow her gaze as she sees it too. "Oh no," she whispers. "Oh no, that was the Christmas wine. I left it cooling to take to the feast, did you?" She looks at us with dawning comprehension. "You drank it, you got into the wine." Whiskers and I exchange glances. Wine? We got drunk on Christmas wine. "There's no time to make more," Lara says quietly, more to herself than to us. "The feast starts in 2 hours. I have nothing to bring." She takes a shaky breath. "It's fine. I just won't go this Christmas. They won't miss me anyway. I've never been, so..." But I can see how much this costs her. The careful planning, the nervousness, the hope that this year she might be fully accepted rather than tolerated. She gathers the ruined loaves, carefully wrapping them as if they might somehow be salvageable. And she sits by the fire, still in her good dress, and stares at nothing. We did this in our carelessness. No, in our stupidity. We destroyed her Christmas. I wait until my head has stopped pounding quite so insistently, then approach Whiskers. "We have to fix this," I say. "How? We're cats. We can't bake bread," he says. "No, but we can acquire bread." "Acquire?" he asks. "The baker would have made extra loaves this morning. In fact, I saw them cooling on his windowsill when I did the perimeter check. It feels like years ago, that peaceful morning inspection. If we borrow some..." "Borrow?" Whiskers' eyes widen. "You mean steal?" "I mean borrow. We'll leave something in exchange." "What do we have to exchange?" "That is a fair question. We own nothing, not even the food in our bowls, technically. Everything in the cottage is Elara's." "We'll figure it out," I say with slight confidence. "But we have to try. We ruined her Christmas. We have to fix it. Whiskers considers this, then nods solemnly. Yes, we need to fix it. The journey to the baker's house is more challenging than anticipated. My head still pounds, my balance remains questionable, and the snow is deeper than I'd prefer, but we press on, driven by guilt and determination. The baker's cottage sits near the center of the village, which means more exposure, more chances to be seen. But fortune favors us. Most of the village is either inside preparing for the feast or already gathering in the square. We approach the window very carefully. 3 loaves sit cooling on the sill. Small, round, perfect. Exactly what we need. How do we get them down? Whiskers asks. I'm studying the problem when a massive brown shape rounds the corner of the cottage. Bruno the dog. Of course, the baker's children keep him as some sort of pet, and the beast has an unfortunate tendency to appear at the worst possible moments. Bruno spots us, and his entire body begins wagging, not just his tail. He bounds forward with the grace of a falling boulder, barking enthusiastically. Cats, friends, play. This is not ideal. Whiskers, distraction. I'll get the bread. What? How do I distract a dog? Use your natural charm? But I don't have natural charm. You're the one who plans things. But I'm already scaling the wall to the windowsill. Behind me, I hear Whiskers attempting to engage Bruno in conversation, which mostly involves the dog trying to sniff him while Whiskers dances backward, making panicked sounds. I reach the window. The loaves are still warm, which makes them slightly harder to grip. I manage to knock one off the sill. It falls into the snow below with a soft thump. Bruno, hearing the sound, abandons Whiskers and bounds toward the bread. No, I yowl. That's not yours. Bruno naturally interprets this as an invitation to play. He grabs the loaf in his massive jaws. What follows is an undignified struggle between a hungover cat and an enthusiastic dog over a loaf of Christmas bread in the snow. Whiskers, demonstrating more courage than I'd credit him with, launches himself at Bruno's tail. The dog yelps, drops the bread, and spins to see what's attacking him. I seize the loaf, now somewhat damp and bearing tooth marks but intact, and begin dragging it away. Whiskers maintains his assault on Bruno's tail just long enough for me to gain distance, then flees to join me. 2 more, I gasp. We repeat this operation twice more, each time barely escaping Bruno's well-meaning destruction. By the end, we have 3 loaves arranged in the snow, all of which are nearly exhausted, and Bruno is thoroughly confused but still cheerful. "What do we leave behind?" Whiskers asks. I consider our options. We have no food, no possessions, nothing of value. Whiskers looks at his favorite toy, a small cloth mouse that he's carried from his old home. The old thing he still owns from his life beyond our territory. He hesitates, then carefully places it on the windowsill. "It's all I have," he says quietly. I watch him do this and feel something uncomfortable in my chest. Respect, perhaps, or gratitude. Possibly both. It's a noble sacrifice. "It's for Elara," he says. "Yes," I agree. "It's for Elara." Well, now comes the truly difficult part. Getting 3 loaves of bread across the village to our cottage while avoiding detection and navigating snow drifts that come up to our chests. And so we fashion a plan. I'll drag the first loaf while Whiskers scouts ahead. Once I'm partway there, he'll return and start dragging the second. We'll leapfrog like this, always keeping the bread moving. It's exhausting, undignified work. The loaves are heavy and we're still recovering from our earlier poisoning. The snow soaks our fur. Our paws go numb, but we persist. We're perhaps halfway to the cottage, struggling with the second loaf in the middle of a narrow lane, when a voice stops us cold. "What in God's name?" Brother Benedict stands at the intersection ahead, staring at us with an expression of absolute astonishment. We freeze. The loaf sits between us, half dragged through the snow. There's no way to pretend this is normal cat behavior. Benedict approaches slowly, his sharp eyes taking in every detail. 2 cats deliberately moving loaves of bread through the village, working in obvious coordination. "Stop," he commands, reaching for the loaf. "You creatures, this is stolen." I don't think, I react. I hiss, a proper aggressive warning hiss, and swat at his hand with claws extended. Whiskers, taking his cue from me, does the same, placing himself between Benedict and the bread. Benedict jumps back, genuinely startled. His face cycles through shock, confusion, and then something harder. Certainty. "You demons," he breathes. "Familiars. I knew it." We ignore him. There's no time for his theological concerns. We have a mission. I resume dragging the loaf. Whiskers takes up position at the other side, helping push. Benedict watches, making no further attempt to stop us, but following at a distance as we struggle through the snow. His presence behind us feels like a weight, a promise of future consequences, but we don't stop. We can't stop, not now. We reach Elara's cottage and collapse beside our hard-won prizes. 3 loaves of bread, somewhat battered by their journey, but otherwise intact. I look back. Benedict stands at a distance, observing our cottage with an expression I cannot quite read. Then he turns and walks toward the village square. "That was bad," Whiskers pants. "That was very bad," I agree. He saw everything. He saw everything. "But we got the bread." "We got the bread." We nudge the loaves to Elara's doorstep, then retreat to catch our breath. After a few minutes, we hear her open the door, hear her gasp of surprise. How did this? She carries the bread inside, studying them with confusion. "These are from the baker's windowsill, but how?" Through the window, I watch her piece it together. The cat's missing, the snow tracks, the tooth marks on one loaf. Her expression shifts from confusion to understanding, to something that might be affection, or exasperation, or both. "You stole bread from me," she says softly. "You absolute fools." She wraps the loaves in clean cloth anyway, and checks her appearance in the copper pot. "I don't understand how you did this, but thank you." Then she leaves for the feast, and we collapse in exhausted heaps, waiting to see what consequences our theft will bring. We follow her secretly once we've recovered enough strength to move. The village square is lit with torches and candles, tables laden with food, the entire community gathered in celebration. It looks warm and welcoming in a way that makes even my cynical heart soften slightly. Elara approaches nervously, her basket of bread held very carefully. The baker sees her, then notices his loaves. "Wait," he says loudly enough that nearby conversations stop. "Wait a minute. That's my bread." The crowd murmurs with confusion. Elara's face pales. Then Brother Benedict steps forward, and I realize with sinking dread what's about to happen. "I can explain what happened," he announces, his voice carrying across the entire square. Everyone turns to listen. This is his moment, the proof he's been seeking of Elara's unnatural nature, the evidence that will finally turn the village against her. "I witnessed her cats," he begins, emphasis on the word making it sound sinister. "Stealing this bread, not scavenging, stealing with clear intent and purpose." Several people glance at Elara, who looks utterly bewildered. "They dragged the loaves through the streets," Benedict continues, "working in coordination. And when I, a man of God, attempted to stop them," he pauses dramatically, "they hissed at me. They showed aggression toward a priest. They were serving their mistress, following her commands to steal. He looks around at the assembled villagers, his expression grave. This is not natural animal behavior. These are not simple cats. They are... But the baker starts laughing. It begins as a chuckle, then grows into full, genuine laughter. The cat stole bread for her? They brought her a Christmas gift, Martha exclaims, delighted. The widow Morgan grins. That's the sweetest thing I ever heard. But no, wait. Benedict tries to regain control, but it's too late. They even left something in payment, the baker's wife adds, holding up Whiskers' toy mouse. Look, a little toy. They tried to trade for it. The children press forward to see, cooing over the small cloth mouse. One of the baker's daughters picks it up reverently. Can I keep it? The village is charmed. Absolutely, completely charmed by the image of two cats desperately stealing bread to save their human's Christmas. Benedict looks around incredulous. You don't understand. The way they moved, the coordination, the defiance of a priest. Oh, they're very smart cats, Brother Benedict, says the baker, still grinning. My old cat once brought home a live chicken. Animals do strange things. Others chime in with their own stories of clever animals. The conversation shifts to fond reminiscences of beloved pets. Benedict's accusation has not only failed, it's backfired completely, making Elara more endearing to the village rather than less. The baker approaches Elara directly. Any woman whose cats work that hard for her deserves to keep the bread. You'll consider it my Christmas gift. I didn't. I had no idea they'd done this, Elara stammers, genuine confusion on her face. They were home when I left. Well, they love you, Martha says warmly. That's clear. The feast continues. Elara welcomed into the celebration with a warmth that makes my chest feel tight, even from my hiding spot in the shadows. She's laughing. She's talking. She's accepted. But Brother Benedict stands apart, watching. His face has settled into an expression of cold certainty. Where the village sees clever cats, he sees something else entirely. Where they see love, he sees witchcraft. I meet his eyes across the square. He sees me watching and doesn't look away. The distance between us feels like a challenge, a promise of conflict to come. Late that night, the cottage is warm and peaceful once more. Elara returns flushed with success, bearing gifts from neighbours. Preserved fruit, a small honey cake, a warm scarf that Martha knitted. She finds us both exactly where she left us, on our cushions by the fire. "You really stole bread," she says, sitting beside us, "and hissed at Brother Benedict. Yes, I heard all about your little adventure." We say nothing, just purr. If in doubt, just purr. "I should scold you. Theft is wrong. You've made Benedict even more suspicious." She scratches behind my ears in exactly the right spot. "But you were trying to help. You were trying to fix your mistake." She's quiet for a moment, then adds softly, "Thank you." She leaves us extra fish and fresh cream before retiring to bed. Whiskers falls asleep almost immediately, exhausted by the day's exertions. I remain awake, watching the fire burn low, thinking about everything that had happened. "We made him more suspicious," I say quietly, though Whiskers can't hear. Through the window, I can just see the church in the distance. A single light burns in Benedict's quarters. He's awake too, thinking about what he saw, about what it means. Today, we got drunk on Christmas wine and destroyed Elara's carefully prepared gifts. We committed theft. Even if we left payment, even if the baker forgave it, it was still theft. We defied a priest. We drew more attention to ourselves and to Elara. And yet, the village loves her more now than before. She's been welcomed into their Christmas celebration not despite the chaos, but because of it. I don't understand humans. I'm not sure I ever will. "Never again with the wine," I muttered to myself. That's a rule now. Final rule, no exceptions. But even as I say it, I think about Whiskers leaving his only possession as payment, about our desperate journey through the snow, about Elara's face when she found the bread, when she was welcomed by the village. Perhaps occasionally, catastrophic failure that somehow resolves into success is acceptable. Perhaps that's what Christmas means. Or perhaps I'm still slightly drunk. I watch Benedict's light burn in the distance, and know that our next encounter will be more fraught than ever. We've confirmed his worst suspicions, even if we won the village's heart. But tonight, Elara sleeps peacefully. The cottage is warm, and we are all together and safe. Tomorrow's problems can wait for tomorrow. I close my eyes and allow sleep to claim me at last. My last thought, a grudging admission. And despite everything, it was a good Christmas. Even if we did have to steal it.